Subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts. The locked house at the end of Briar Lane. She woke up inside the wall, not in a room, not on a bed, inside the wall. Her arms were pinned tightly to her sides. Something rough scratched her cheek, wood and dust maybe. No light, no air, only the smell, mold, old copper, dead animals. Something warm pressed against her leg and shifted. She was not alone. Mara tried to scream, but there wasn't enough space to open her mouth fully. Her own breath echoed back at her. Then came another. Breath not hers, shallow, fast, too close. Something exhaled against her neck. Oh my God. Something is breathing on me. Her brain scrambled for logic. Maybe it was a dream, sleep paralysis, a breakdown. But no, she could feel the grit of insulation against her tongue, could taste mildew in the air, and then something licked her face. The tongue was too wide, animal, sticky, and it didn't stop. It licked her cheek slowly, then up to her eye. She thrashed as much as she could, which wasn't much. Her shoulder scraped something sharp. Nails. Rusted. Nails. Her hand found something else, fur. Dozens of clumps of fur, sticky with rot. She wasn't just in the wall. She was inside something dead. The terror hit her chest like a freight train. She couldn't remember how she got here. No memories, no build-up, just blank space, and now this. The only thing she did remember was Lily. 3 days earlier, Mara had arrived at her sister Lily's new house. A surprise call, a rushed invitation. Just come, I need you. It was supposed to be a break, a weekend to reconnect. Movies, cheap wine, reminiscing about their mom. But the house at the end of Briar Lane wasn't somewhere people lived. It looked like it waited. An old Victorian, warped and leaning, the paint cracked like sunburned skin. The windows were too dark, too deep, like they weren't reflecting light but swallowing it. Even the trees around it stood wrong, their limbs twisted like they were trying to crawl away. Lily greeted her at the door, bright and smiling, but her eyes looked exhausted. Sorry, it's such a dump. Got it for next to nothing after the last owner. I died. Kinda perfect, right? Mara forced a smile. Perfectly haunted, maybe. Lily laughed too loud. As they stepped inside, Mara's phone buzzed. A voicemail notification. No missed call. Just a voice message from an unknown number. She didn't check it. The inside of the house smelled like mothballs and burnt sugar. The wallpaper peeled in long strips, revealing black mold underneath. But the kitchen was clean. Too clean. Brand new. Appliances that didn't match the rest of the place. As they settled in that first night, Mara noticed odd things. The way the light bulbs flickered whenever Lily walked under them. How the hallway mirror distorted her reflection slightly, stretching her eyes wider. How the front door locked itself. Still, it was her sister, and her sister needed her. That night, they drank wine and watched a horror movie, something dumb with possessed dolls. Lily curled up beside her on the couch, like they used to when they were kids. But halfway through the movie, Lily whispered, "Do you remember what Mum said before she died?" Mara blinked. "What?" she said. "Don't let her in." Always thought she meant the grief, but maybe she meant something else. Before Mara could answer, Lily got up and walked out of the room. The next morning, Lily showed her around the house. Most of the rooms were empty, bare wood floors, cracked walls, the kind of silence that felt intentional. But then they reached the door, under the stairs. It looked different from the rest, reinforced, metal-lined, covered in strange carvings. Not quite symbols, not quite letters, just marks, deep ones. "Never open this," Lily said, her voice flat. "Why not?" "Promise me, Mara." "Okay." Mara noticed the door had been nailed shut, then taped over, and then chained, like someone was desperate to keep something in, or out. That night, Mara woke to scratching, soft at first, like a mouse, then louder, more rhythmic, coming from inside the wall behind her headboard. When she sat up, the scratching stopped. She held her breath. Then it started again. from the closet. When she opened it, nothing. Just her suitcase, still half-packed. But as she turned back toward the bed, the mirror caught her eye. Her reflection wasn't moving. She froze. In the reflection, her own face stared back, motionless. Then slowly the reflection smiled, but Mara didn't. By the third day, things were unraveling fast. Mara found Lily standing barefoot in the basement, mumbling to the wall. She had dirt under her nails, her pajamas soaked in something dark and sticky. When Mara asked what she was doing, Lily only said feeding her. That evening, Mara tried to leave. She packed her bag and headed to the front door, but it was gone, not locked, gone. Where the door had been was now seamless plaster. No knob, no frame, just wall. She ran to the windows. Every one of them was bricked over from the outside. Panicked, she checked her phone again. Still no service, but the voicemail was still there. One new message. She hit play. There was static. Then a voice, her mother's voice. "Mara, baby, don't look under the stairs. She'll see you. She always sees you." Her mother had been dead for 10 years. That night, Mara locked her door and pushed the dresser in front of it. But around 3 a.m., she heard footsteps in the hall. Slow, barefoot, wet. Then a knock, soft. Just once. She didn't answer. Then came the voice, Lily's voice, but not. "Mara, are you awake? I think she chose you." The door handle rattled. The dresser shifted. Mara held her breath, then silence. She stayed, that way, motionless, terrified, until dawn. When she finally opened the door, Lily was standing just outside, smiling, holding a pair of scissors. Mara finally confronted her, demanded the truth, demanded to leave. "You can't leave," Lily said calmly. "Not until the house decides." "What the hell does that mean?" "She remembers you." Mara stared, confused. "Mom?" she whispered. "No," Lily said softly. "Her. The one who came before Mom. The one who lived in the walls." That's when Mara saw the bruises on Lily's arms, thin lines circling her wrists like rope burns. "She's part of us now," Lily said. "She came through the bloodline. I let her in. You have to." Then Lily smiled, but her lips trembled. "I'm sorry." Before Mara could react, Lily lunged, a needle in her hand. She screamed, staggered back, but it was too late. Everything went black, and now she was here, in the wall, lying in wet fur and rot and dust, pinned by nails, breathing beside something else. The licking began again. Mara's panic reached full tilt. She pushed, clawed, kicked. Her hands scraped wood, insulation, fur, until her fingers touched something hard. A hinge, a seam in the wall, a door. She shoved against it with all her strength. It creaked slightly, just enough to let in a sliver of light. Through the gap, she saw Lily, sitting in the hallway, smiling. "You woke up," Lily said softly. "That's good. She'll want to see you now." Mara tried to scream, but her throat was raw. Then something inside the wall moved beside her, a face pressed close, not Lily's, pale, rotten, hollow-eyed, the skin sagging off the bone. Smiled and whispered, "She left me here too." The woman in the walls. Mara's scream never came out. The thing inside the wall with her, the woman or what was left of her, didn't move. It just stared. Its breath was thick and sour, its smile wet and cracked. Beneath the rotting skin, something shifted, like whatever was wearing that face wasn't meant to wear it. "She left me here too," it whispered again. Then it pressed its face against Mara's, cheek to cheek, skin peeling against skin. "But I stayed quiet," it hissed, "and quiet things are forgotten. That's how we survive." Mara kicked and thrashed, and this time something gave way. The panel beside her shoulder buckled with a groan. She shoved her elbow into it, again and again, and the rotted wood split with a sharp crack. Daylight poured through the hole. Fresh air hit her face. She clawed and dragged herself out. She tumbled into a narrow corridor, coughing and covered in cobwebs and blood. She turned back to look at the hole in the wall, but it was gone. Smooth wood, no seams, no sign she'd ever come through it, but she wasn't alone in the hallway. Lily stood at the other end, still in her nightgown, still smiling. "You weren't supposed to wake up yet," Lily said. Her voice was too calm. Mara backed away, trembling. "What the hell did you do to me?" "You don't understand," Lily said, stepping forward. "She needs someone. Someone new. I thought maybe if she liked you, she'd let me go. You drugged me and stuffed me into the goddamn wall?" Lily's eyes welled up. "She picked me when I was 11. You don't know what it's like, Mara. You didn't see her behind the mirror. You didn't hear her sing under the floorboards." Mara's voice cracked. "You could have warned me." "I tried," Lily whispered. "The voicemail, Mom's voice. I thought maybe she could reach you before it was too late." That stopped Mara cold. "That was you? You faked Mom's voice?" Lily shook her head slowly. "No, that wasn't me. That's when I knew she wanted you." Mara ran. She didn't know where she was going, just away, deeper into the house, but the layout was wrong. The halls twisted into unfamiliar turns. Doors that should have led outside opened into rooms she didn't remember entering. The air grew thicker, colder. She found herself in the attic. Dust floated in heavy beams of light through the cracked boards. A rocking horse creaked on its own in the corner, but what caught her eye was the trunk. It was massive, black, iron-bound, padlocked, a name carved across the top, Catherine Marrow. Her mother's maiden name. She pried the lock open with a rusted pipe from the corner. Inside were old papers, drawings, journals, letters. She flipped through one of them, her hands shaking. On the first page, "To whoever finds this, run. Burn the house. Burn me too if I'm still inside." Eliza Marrow, 1948. The entries were scattered, paranoid, but a story began to form. A woman named Eliza had grown up in this house. She wrote about the woman behind the wall, who came to her at night, who whispered secrets, who promised gifts, beauty, revenge. But every girl in their bloodline, as every daughter, was meant to carry her, to feed her, to obey. She is the price, the power we don't ask for, the hunger that never dies, and she wants to be born. Again, through one of us. The last page was written in smeared ink. "I trapped her. I sealed her in the wall under the stairs. If the blood stays out, she stays in. But she is patient. She waits for the next broken girl." Mara closed the book. A creak came from behind her. Lily stood in the doorway, holding something in her hand. A shard of mirror, jagged, red at the tip. "Why didn't she pick me?" Lily said softly. "Why does she want you?" Mara stepped back. "Lily, listen to me. We can leave. We can burn it, just like Eliza said. We can end this." But Lily's eyes had changed. They weren't filled with fear anymore. They were hopeful. She says, "If I give you to her willingly, I'll be free." The chase through the house wasn't fast. It was slow, agonizing, like a nightmare you can't run from. The house seemed to move with Lily. Doors unlocked for her, shadows thickened behind her, the walls pulsed with sound, whispers, songs, screams. Mara finally locked herself in the bathroom. She pressed her back to the door, sobbing. The mirror in front of her was cracked, but something flickered behind the glass. A face, not hers, Mom, not just her reflection. It was her, pale, gaunt, eyes blackened like she'd been dead for years. She moved her mouth, but no sound came. Mara leaned close. "What do I do? Please, help me." Her mother's mouth opened wider. Then, suddenly, a whisper broke through. "Find her grave." The mirror shattered on its own. It took Mara an hour to escape the bathroom. When she finally did, the house had changed again, rotting faster now. Wallpaper sloughed off the walls like dead skin. The floors warped under her steps. Flies swarmed in spirals near the ceilings. But Mara followed. The journals followed the notes Eliza had written. Tiny marks carved into the banister, into the back of paintings, into floorboards. CM. Below. She's buried below. Mara reached the basement again. The smell was unbearable. The air felt alive, like it breathed in slow gulps, and there, under a loose slab of stone, she found the coffin. It wasn't buried, just placed in a pit, surrounded by salt and black candles burned down to nubs. Her name was carved on the lid, Catherine Marrow, there. Grandmother. She opened it. There was no body, just bones, arranged into the shape of a woman, but wrong. Too many ribs, fingers far too long, and stitched into the skull in crude twine was hair, human hair, fresh. Then the voice came from behind. She was our gift, Lily. She stood on the steps, breathing hard, eyes full of tears and mania. She offered Mom a way out of her depression. She offered me peace. She can fix everything, Mara, even you. She can fix what's broken. I'm not broken, Mara whispered. Lily walked forward, holding the mirror shard again. Then why did she pick you? Suddenly a scream tore through. The basement. Not from Mara, not from Lily, from the coffin. The bones were moving, shaking, clicking together like teeth. The air dropped 20 degrees. Mara lunged forward, grabbed the salt circle and broke it. The scream turned to a howl. The lights burst. The coffin split in half, and from the bones something rose. What emerged was not a ghost. It was a thing stitched together from memory and grief, the shape of a woman with no face, her limbs far too long, her voice a choked gurgle of sobbing and laughter. You broke the line. The thing moved toward Lily first, not in anger, but like a child reaching for its mother. You kept me fed, it said in a dozen voices at once. But you were only a vessel. Lily dropped the shard. No, I gave you everything. I chose you, I gave you her. The thing turned, looked at Mara. You are mine now. But Mara had already picked up the journal, and in Eliza's final notes were words of binding. Old words, words meant to trap. Mara shouted them, louder than the voices, louder than the screams, louder than her own fear. The creature screamed. It flailed. The walls cracked, the floor split, and then everything went still. When Mara woke, she was outside, in the grass. The house was on fire behind her, roaring, collapsing, burning from the inside out. No sign of Lily, no sign of the creature. Her phone buzzed, one voicemail. She didn't want to check it, but she did. It was her mother's voice again. Calm, kind. Thank you, baby. You ended it. And then silence. What followed me home? The fire raged until morning. By the time the sun rose, the house was nothing but blackened timber and ash. Firefighters said it was an electrical fault. Said Mara was lucky to get out alive. No one asked about Lily. No one found Lily. Mara didn't speak. Not to the paramedics. Not to the police. Not even to the neighbors who gathered behind the yellow. Tape, whispering. She watched the smoke curl into the sky and felt nothing. Just a silence so loud it made her ears ring. 3 days later, Mara returned to her apartment in the city. She thought leaving the house would end it. That torching the place, the bones, the coffin, the thing that wore her grandmother's name, would be enough. But she was wrong. The silence came with her, not just in her mind, in her apartment. At night, the pipes whispered. Her bedroom. Door clicked shut on its own. The bathroom mirror fogged with handprints, even when the water was cold, and the voicemail, it wouldn't delete. Every time she removed it, it came back. Her mum's voice, over and over. Thank you, baby. You ended it. But there was something wrong. The more she listened, the more she noticed it. The breath between thank you and baby was wet, like someone choking. The voice trembled, like it wasn't reading from a script, but repeating, copying. By the seventh time, Mara realized it wasn't her mom's voice anymore. She booked a session with a grief therapist, Dr. Calder.com voice. Warm office, framed diplomas and plastic ficus trees. He nodded when she told him everything, not just the surface story, but all of it. The woman in the wall, the thing in the coffin, Lily's betrayal, the word she chanted in the dark. Dr. Calder waited a moment after she finished. Then he said, "You've been through something your mind can't categorize. That doesn't make it less real." Mara blinked. "You believe me?" "I believe you saw something, and that's enough for it to matter." He handed her a journal, told her to write, told her sometimes the act of remembering reshapes trauma, takes the fear away. Mara agreed, but she never opened the journal, because that night she heard the scratching again. Not in the walls this time, under the bed. She didn't sleep. She lay in bed with her eyes wide open, frozen, listening. The scratching was faint, like nails on old wood, slow and steady, not animal, not random. It was writing. The next morning she looked beneath the bed. Nothing. Clean floorboards. But when she tilted her head just right, she saw it. Under the mattress, carved into the frame, a message. You opened the door. She dropped the mattress and stumbled back. Her phone buzzed. New voicemail. Blocked number. She played it. Static at first, then a single word. Hoarse, barely audible. Home. Mara returned to Dr. Calder. She didn't speak, just slid her phone across the desk and pressed play. He listened, nodded. But his eyes, they changed. Not widened, not surprised. They narrowed. Like he was remembering something. "I've heard this before," he said quietly. Mara sat forward. "What do you mean?" He opened a drawer, pulled out a folder. Inside, newspaper clippings, old ones, yellowed and brittle. One headline read, "Family of 4 found in sealed room, only daughter survived." Another, "Local woman claims dead sister spoke through walls." And finally, scrawled on the back of a photo, "She lives in the silence. She walks between walls. You never destroy her, you just pass her on." Mara's stomach twisted. "You knew?" she whispered. Dr. Calder's voice dropped. "I tried to stop it. Years ago, I used to live in that house, Mara. When I was a boy, I saw her too. Why didn't you say anything? Because you weren't chosen yet. She hadn't awakened in you. If I interfered before the bond was complete, it would have just passed to someone else. Maybe a child. Maybe someone too weak to fight her." He stood slowly, walked to the window. "She doesn't need walls anymore. Not now. She lives in memory, in guilt, in grief. You're the perfect vessel, Mara. You're haunted, but you're strong. She can wear you." "No," Mara whispered. "I ended it. I said the words. I sealed her." "You broke the salt," Dr. Calder said. "That released her. The words bound her to you. Not the house. You." Mara ran again, not just out of the office, out of the city. She took a bus to the coast, checked into a motel with no mirrors, no voicemail, no internet. But that night she dreamed. In the dream, she was back in the house. Not burning. Pristine. Perfect. Childhood photos still on the walls. Music playing softly. Her mother humming. Mara walked through the kitchen and found her mom at the sink, washing dishes. "Hey, baby," her mom said, smiling. "I made your favorite." Mara moved closer, but her mother's reflection in the window didn't match her face. It smiled wider, mouthed a word. "Mine." She woke up, gasping. The TV in the motel room had turned on by itself. Black screen, white. Text, playback failed, voice unrecognized, and then the screen flickered, a face, hers, but distorted, stretched, the eyes too large, the mouth too slack, and behind her, hands, fingers pushing through her shoulders. Growing from inside, she screamed and threw the remote. The TV shattered under the broken glass. Another message. "You're already home." Mara didn't run this time. She went to the beach, sat on the rocks until sunrise, and that's when she saw her. Not the thing, but Lily, standing at the shoreline in a white dress, barefoot, soaked to the knees, eyes blank. Skin grey, she didn't blink, didn't speak, just stood there. Mara approached slowly. "Is it really you?" Lily nodded. "She's not done with you," Lily said, her voice dull and distant. "You think it ends because the house burned, but the house was just a door. You're the room." Mara's lip trembled. "I don't want this. I didn't choose this." "She did," Lily said. "She always chooses the loneliest one." Then Lily began to fade, like fog in sunlight, and as she disappeared, Mara heard the scratching again, not outside, not beneath her, inside her head, like something writing words directly onto her thoughts. "Let me wear you. I can make it stop. I can be your mother. I can be your sister. I can be everyone you lost." The door was never in the house. Mara stopped trying to outrun it. She stayed in the motel, curtains drawn, lights off, phone powered down. She ate from vending machines, slept in 2-hour bursts and tried not to dream. But she could feel it inside her now, not like possession. Not yet. It was subtler, like a hand brushing the back of her mind, a suggestion when she thought too long, a whisper just before sleep. "Let me help. I can make the grief stop. All I need is a little more space." And worse, Mara had begun to feel tempted. It was the mirror that finally made her break. 3 nights after the beach, she stood in the motel bathroom brushing her teeth, pale, hollow-eyed, trembling. She leaned forward to spit. And that's when she saw it. Her reflection blinked a second too late. At first, she thought it was fatigue, hallucination, until the reflection smiled, not a warm smile, a slack-jawed, practiced smile, like it had watched her for days and still hadn't figured out how to be human. Then it mouthed something she couldn't hear. She grabbed her phone and recorded it, played the video back. The screen was blank, just her voice whispering faintly, "I'm coming out." Mara packed her bag and left before dawn. She didn't know where she was going, only that she couldn't be alone anymore. She needed answers, needed truth, because she was starting to realize the worst part of all this wasn't the haunting. It was that none of it started in the house. Not really. The house was just the first flare. But the fuel, the thing this entity fed on, had been with her long before, and there was one person who might know why. Lily. She found Lily's old emergency contact in the hospital records from when they were kids. The name had stuck with her. All these years, Karen DeWitt, an old family friend, a nurse who took Lily in after the incident with the social worker. Mara drove 3 hours north to find her in a small town by the forest line. Karen lived alone. Weathered face, sharp eyes, the kind that had seen things and stopped asking questions. She let Mara in with a cautious hug and a cup of lukewarm tea. "I figured someone would come knocking eventually," Karen said. "But I didn't think it'd be you." Mara leaned in. "Did Lily ever tell you what happened in that house?" Karen was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "She told me something was inside the walls. Said it looked like her mother sometimes. Other times it was a copy of her. It made her lie, made her pretend." "Pretend what?" "That she was safe, that she was normal, that she didn't hear it scratching at night." Mara nodded slowly. "She didn't make it up," she whispered. "It's real, and it followed me out." Karen didn't flinch. She reached under the table and pulled out a shoebox. Inside, photos, torn pages, a cassette tape. She handed Mara the tape. "Lily left this the night before she vanished. Said if you ever showed up, to make you listen." Mara found a dusty tape player, slotted the cassette, pressed play. Lily's voice crackled through the speaker. "If you're hearing this, she's inside you now. I'm sorry, Mara. I tried to stop it. It doesn't live in the house. That's the trap. It waits in people, in broken families, in guilt. You invited her in the moment you looked away from what happened to me. She takes the shape of whatever hurts you most. And then she whispers, and then she asks, if you say yes, it's already over. Mara sat frozen. She remembered the day Lily had been taken from their home by child services. She remembered hiding in her room while it happened, stuffing, headphones in her ears, pretending not to hear her sister scream. She hadn't spoken to her since. And now she understood. That was the moment the door opened. Not in the walls, in her. Karen poured more tea. Her hands trembled. She always said you'd be strong enough, she whispered. She thought maybe you'd be the one who didn't say yes. Mara's phone buzzed in her coat pocket. No caller ID. She didn't want to answer, but something deep, cold and ancient inside her did. She picked up, at first, nothing. Then her mother's voice. I'm so proud of you, baby. You're almost ready. Mara's throat closed. Don't, she whispered. Don't. Use her voice. But the voice changed, softened, became Lily's. Then let me use yours. The call ended, and the mirror across the room cracked in a perfect spiral. Mara stayed with Karen that night. They placed salt at the windows, iron keys at the doors. Karen burned sage and whispered a chant Mara didn't recognize. But around 2 a.m., the house began to groan, not like wind, not like wood, like something moving through it. Karen grabbed Mara's arm. She's testing you, she said, trying to see how far inside she already is. I didn't say yes, Mara insisted. But you haven't said no either. At 3:17 a.m., Mara's journal opened on its own. The pages flipped until they stopped at a blank page. Words appeared, not written in ink, but etched, burned into the paper as if by heat. I can take your pain. Just say yes. Mara felt it. Then the unbearable weight, all the years of guilt, the silence, the moment she chose not to help Lily, the funerals, the hollow apologies, the way she locked it all away and smiled through it. It was all being fed back into her and twisted. Karen handed her an old crucifix. You have to end this, she whispered, but not by fighting her. Mara turned to her. Then how? Karen's voice shook. You have to confess. The ritual was simple. You wrote what you feared most. You said it aloud. You burned it and you prayed she would let go. But if she didn't, if she felt your pain was still too sweet to leave behind, she'd become you. Mara sat at the kitchen table. The house rattled. The walls bled. The mirror over the sink reflected things that weren't there. She wrote, I watched my sister be taken and did nothing. I pretended not to know what my mother did. I chose silence, and silence chose me back. She lit the paper, watched it curl and blacken. Smoke filled the room, then a voice, her own, whispered back, I accept. But Mara hadn't spoken. Karen grabbed her hand. Don't respond, she warned. Not out loud, not even in thought. The flames flared one final time, and then everything stopped. The noise, the tremors, the presence, gone. For the first time in weeks, Mara slept. Deep, dreamless sleep. When she woke up, the house was quiet. The mirrors were normal. The phone had no missed calls. Karen smiled faintly. You passed the test. Mara leaned back, breathed, but something was off. The journal, it was open again, and in a neat, perfect line. Mara's handwriting, but not her words. Thank you for the space. I'm so much quieter now. Mara froze. Karen, she whispered. What if it wasn't about feeding on pain? Karen looked up, puzzled. Mara's voice dropped to a breath. What if all it wanted was to live somewhere quiet? And then her reflection blinked. Too late again. You're not supposed to remember that. The morning light was sharp and wrong. Mara sat in Karen's kitchen, still staring at the journal, at the line she didn't write. Thank you for the space. I'm so much quieter. Now, she told herself, maybe she wrote it in her sleep. Maybe her exhausted brain had simply mimicked its own terror. But when she glanced at the mirror above the sink, her reflection wasn't sitting. It was standing, smiling and mouthing something. Again, this time she understood. That wasn't the ritual. Mara left before noon. Karen didn't stop her. She only pressed a small crucifix into her palm and said, "Don't go back to the house, not until you're ready to tear it down." But that wasn't Mara's plan anymore. The house was just a symptom, a place where it grew bold, but it started before the house, before Lily's screams, before the mirror cracked. It started in their mother, and it ended with a man Mara had spent her life pretending didn't exist, her father. She drove south to the old records office in Ash Grove, a town forgotten by time and swallowed by trees. She needed answers, birth records, hospital logs, family court cases. She found what she was looking for under a misspelled file. Mara Graves, Ward of State, 1997. There was a note, almost completely faded. Father listed as James B. Carter, DOB unknown, cleared of custody due to psychological history. James Carter. The name meant nothing to her, but when she whispered it, her mouth felt strange, like it had once known the shape of that name and been taught to forget it. She tracked James to a hospice facility on the edge of the state, a place for the mentally unwell, those with no family, no visitors. The nurse at the desk blinked when she asked for him. "James hasn't had a visitor in 20 years. You sure you're his?" Mara nodded. "Just tell him I'm the one who survived." He was sitting in a plastic chair, staring at the wall when she entered, thin, hollow. But something in his eyes flickered the moment he saw her. "You came back," he whispered. Mara froze. "You know me?" "You remember the cabin, don't you? The stairs that went nowhere. The red door." "No," she said, but her stomach turned. James smiled like that was the right answer. "You're not supposed to." Mara stepped closer. "I need to know what happened to Lily, to our mother, to me." James leaned forward, eyes twitching. "You opened it. That's all that matters." "What door?" He pointed at her chest. "The one inside you. She made you forget how to close it." The hospice lights flickered. In the hallway, a cart rolled by itself. James's voice dropped. "She came from your mother, or maybe through her. I was just the gatekeeper. She needed someone hollowed out enough to welcome her in." Mara's blood. It ran cold. "What did you do?" James didn't blink. "I said yes." He stood suddenly, walked to the mirror on the wall. "You think it's about haunted houses and voices in the dark," he said. "But that's just how she introduces herself." She doesn't have a name, she steals them, just like she steals faces, memories, voices, souls. Mara swallowed. "Why me?" James turned. For a moment the overhead light caught his face at just the wrong angle, and his eyes reflected back completely black. "Because you were already broken." She just moved into the cracks. That night, Mara stayed at a roadside motel near the state line. Cheap, dust-covered, no working locks on the windows. She didn't sleep. Around 2:41 a.m., the phone rang. She didn't answer. At 3:12 a.m., the TV turned on, static, then an image. A child's drawing, a house with no windows, a red door, a girl with X's for eyes. The screen glitched, and her own voice came through the speaker. "You're getting too close." She turned the TV off, heart pounding. The mirror by the bathroom door trembled slightly. Then a message appeared in fog across the glass. "You forgot what you did to Lily," Mara screamed, picked up her phone, dialed Karen. It went straight to a voicemail. "I need help," she whispered. "Something's wrong. I remember things that didn't happen and forget things that matter." She paused. "I think I let it in twice." The next morning, Mara drove. No direction, just away. Until she saw a faded billboard for a place she hadn't thought about in years. Camp Hollow Creek. It was where Child Services had sent her and Lily for one summer, right before they were permanently split. She barely remembered anything about it, just vague impressions of cabins, tall trees, something red in the woods, but her hands turned the wheel, and she drove there. The camp was closed, abandoned. Nature had taken it back. Trees growing through the floorboards, signs decayed into rust, but the main cabin still stood. Inside, dust, silence, and a single chair with a photo taped to it, of Mara and Lily, both smiling, but something was off. The background was not the camp, it was a house, their old house. Mara flipped the photo over, written in black marker. This is where it happened. You made her go alone. She knocked on the red door. The floor creaked behind her. She turned. No one, but the smell hit her, salt and vinegar, the same smell from the dreams, from the motel, from the mirror, and then a voice, inches from her ear. Do you remember what you traded? Mara spun, saw no one, but the door to the back of the cabin opened on its own. Inside, a stairwell, going down. She never remembered there being a basement, but her feet moved. The air changed with every step, colder, tighter. By the time she reached the bottom, she could barely breathe. There was only one thing down there, a mirror, not like the others. This one wasn't cracked or dirty or haunted. It was perfect, smooth, and waiting. Mara stepped in front of it. Her reflection smiled. This time it spoke aloud. You're ready now? Ready for what? To remember. Then the mirror turned black, and scenes began to play. Not horror, not ghosts, memories, her as a child, watching Lily sob, their mother screaming. A night Mara blocked out, Lily begging her to hide in the basement, saying someone had come through the mirror, saying it talked to her. Mara shaking her head, locking the door, walking away, choosing to forget, choosing to pretend. And now she remembered everything. The mirror was never cursed. It was a deal, one Mara made to survive, to forget, to live without. Guilt, and Lily had paid the price. Mara fell to her knees. The reflection did not. It stood taller, straighter, confident. Now you know, it whispered. Mara looked up. Why show me now? The reflection smiled, because this was the final piece. You're ready to come home. Suddenly, the cabin shook. Wood splintered. Voices poured through the walls. Dozens, maybe hundreds, all saying the same word. Yes. The mirror cracked, but did not break, and Mara realized the truth. The entity was never chasing her. It had been waiting for her to remember, to consent, and now she had. Some doors never stay locked. The mirror groaned like something alive. Hairline fractures spidered across the surface, but it still held her image. Only, it wasn't her anymore. Not completely. Mara stood in the middle of the basement, the silence before the storm thickening around her like gauze. That reflection, her reflection, tilted its head, then stepped forward, and this time it stepped out of the glass, out of memory, out of the past. It wore her face, but there was no grief in its eyes, only calm, cruel calm. Mara backed away. What are you? It smiled. The part of you that said yes, the part you buried. I waited. And you finally dug me up. Mara shook her head. I didn't mean to. You did. You always did. The voice wasn't distorted or demonic. It was hers, but with certainty she hadn't felt in years. The voice of someone who didn't break. When things got bad, the voice of someone who let Lily go. I was just a kid, Mara whispered. I didn't know what I was doing. The other Mara stepped closer. But you did. You heard her beg. You saw what was in the mirror that night. You felt the pull, and you didn't fight. Mara trembled. I didn't know it would take her. The other shook her head. You didn't care. The cabin groaned again, the stairs above creaking with phantom footsteps, the walls pulsed, bleeding shadows. The drawings on the floor flickered with childlike scribbles of pain. All the stories, all 7 of them, had pointed to this moment. This wasn't one story. It was all of them, all the horrors. All came from the same place, from her. You made a deal to forget, the other Mara said, to survive the pain. But she never stopped screaming in that mirror, Mara, and now it's your turn to listen. Suddenly, the mirror began to flicker. Esau. Scene played out. Lily, 8 years old, standing in front of the same mirror, crying, begging Mara not to leave her alone with it. It talks to me when you're asleep. It says it's hungry. Mara's younger self didn't respond. Just shut the basement door, locked it, and whispered, "Be brave." The other Mara touched her shoulder. Cold as the grave. You broke her, and then you broke yourself so you wouldn't have to feel it. Mara's knees hit the floor. She covered her ears. "Please stop." She scratched at the mirror until her nails tore off. She called your name for hours, and when she realized you weren't coming back, "Stop!" She let it in. Mara screamed, but there was no sound. Just pressure. The kind you feel before something ruptures. The mirror cracked fully, shattering like ice, and behind it was not a wall, it was a door, the red door, the one from every dream. Every drawing, every echoing voice, the one Lily knocked on, the one Mara opened. "You can walk away," the other said. "Go back to your life. Pretend this never happened. That's what you're good at." Mara stood slowly, face pale, trembling. "No." The Mara raised a brow. "You're going in. I left her there once. I won't do it again." The red door pulsed. It was alive, breathing. Each heartbeat was Lily's scream in reverse, a sucking sound. As if the world behind the door was trying to draw Mara inside. She placed her hand on the knob. Cold, not metal, bone. The other Mara leaned in, whispering one final time. "There's no coming back. I know." And she opened it. Darkness poured, out like ink dropped in water, no floor, no sky, just a place between. As Mara stepped through, her memories returned with full clarity. The blood, the silence, the choice she made. It wasn't just a childhood trauma. It was a ritual, a deal, to forget what she'd done and give someone else in return. The mirror was the payment, but guilt was the interest. Mara walked until her legs didn't feel like hers. The space shifted, old hallways from her childhood, voices from therapy, Lily's laughter on a loop, then her sobs, then her silence. Then a figure, curled up, back turned. A child. Knees. Pulled to chest, humming something tuneless. "Lily?" No response. Mara got closer. "Lily, it's me. I remember now." Still nothing. She reached out and touched her shoulder, and Lily turned. Her face was hollow. No eyes, no mouth. Just smooth skin stretched over a silent scream, carved into her chest. Backwards, like a mirror's reflection, were the words, "She left me here." Mara fell back, weeping. "I'm sorry, I was scared. I was just a kid." The walls groaned. Whispers circled her like vultures. "You knew what it cost. You let her scream. You said yes. But this time, Mara didn't. Run," she crawled forward. Took the child, this empty shell of her sister, into her arms and whispered, "Take it back." She pressed her own forehead to the girl's. "Take everything. My memories, my life, my voice. Just let her go." And for the first time, thing inside Lily spoke, finally. An honest deal. There was no ceremony, no flash of light, just exchange. Mara's memories drained out like blood. Her regrets, her face, her name. And something moved into Lily. Something left Mara. The girl opened her eyes. Bright, terrified, human. "Where am I?" Mara smiled faintly. "You're free." Then everything shattered. She awoke in the woods, cold, alone. The camp was gone. The mirror was gone. Her phone was dead. Her name wouldn't come to mind. She walked barefoot to the road. A passing driver stopped, asked if she was okay. She nodded, smiled. "I'm Lily." Epilogue. 3 months later, a story broke online. A woman, identity unknown, was found wandering along Route 6, unable to remember anything about her past. She was adopted by a local family, quiet, kind, but strange. At night, she talked to her mirror, not in fear, in whispers. In her room, taped to the mirror, was a note written in her own hand. Some doors never stay locked, but sometimes we become the lock. The end.